So I just need to double check if you can hear me. So give me a couple seconds here. Yes, you can. Awesome. So welcome. I've lost count of what day we're on. I challenged myself that I was gonna go for 31 days live in this group, and then of course I'm gonna upload this video on YouTube. So if you're seeing me from there, hi. My name is Rudo. I'm a clear channel of Sri Venus. Welcome to Mental Alchemy Academy. So today we're going to be talking about world consciousness because it's right in our faces, right? And it's fascinating because this is not something that's very natural to us, right? And if you are someone who's tired of fighting the system and you know that this is wrong and you want to build a life sovereign from the system, this is the video for you. So, world consciousness, of course, it's not natural. It's not natural to a true essence as divine beings, right? We're here to awaken into our internal peace, into internal coherence within ourselves, within our network, within our relationships, our families. We're here to multiply this divine wealth that we know we want, right? We believe that in getting more material possessions, that's where we gain this feeling. When we gain reputation and prestige and status, that's when we finally experience this, right? But what happens when we go within and find it within ourselves first and build a life around that, right? What happens when you choose to go the other way, that the system that you're born into, everything, you feel like you're creating an identity, right, that is not fully supported by your environment, right? So you always feel like you're misunderstood, you're a refugee, like even though you're born in that family, even though you're born and you lived your entire life in that environment, you feel like, man, there's something missing, and then you distort your true self so that you fit in more, so that you belong, right? And this is what we call their survival identity. And we do this naturally in order to fit in into our environment. And some people do it more than others, right? Because they want fame, because they want to be seen, to be a celebrity, their desire is bigger than their internal values, right? They're willing to abandon self to get what they want. And if you're not one of those, you're mostly gonna find videos like this, right, that help you to pivot from that momentum, because you know, like, oh, this is not natural, it's not organic. And it's the same way how a lot of people are vouching for us to go and to war, and who wants to have blood on their hands, really, right? Who wants to force other people to act a certain way so that you can have your way, right? I mean, if we look at the microcosm of war, right? If you look at it, individual relationships, that is seen as murder, right? That's seen as, I have to butcher that word, but you know what I mean, right? When you hurt another person and their soul exits their body, right? You're taken to prison for it. But when it's state to state, country to country, it's a different situation, right? One person has to bully the other person in order for that to happen. That's like a power imbalance. But I'm not going into politics because politics is divisive, right? We're talking about what brings us back together, which is our true essence, which is where our divine essence always was and always will be. It's not something that can be taken away. It's a state of being where we have enough to share with everybody, where we have enough, where we don't need to inflate our ego in order to be able to carry it all. We don't need to have a certain personality for us to have it. It's an internal coherence. It's an easiness. It's a remembrance and awakening of our internal capacity, right? Our internal presence that we are experiencing through this human lens, right? So of course, like when we are having um, this counter experience to who you truly know you are and the common sense of it all, like, right, like when you're a little child, you always knew, like, man, there's more to this. Like, why are these idiots operating like this? Why are they fighting? Why are they doing things like this? You have something unique to you, to your soul, to your inner child, that you know, and you've probably forgotten, or you've hid back in the, because no one seems to be operating from that common sense. You need to bring that back online, because this is how you protect your integrity. And when you don't act within your own integrity, this is where you start having diseases. This is where you start drinking and numbing yourself, right? Ending up in relationships that don't feed your soul, right? Of course, you need to feed your soul first and operate from that internal coherence. But that's when you attract people who are duplicitous, right? People you can't trust, where you ask yourself, like, man, I'm in this beautiful home, I'm in this beautiful life, but this is such a lie. Like, I have to work so much harder to keep it up, right? I'm empty here, right? I feel like a zombie. And I'm around these people who don't have the values that I truly have, right? I'm making good money, but my soul is empty. My heart is empty. So this is where you really want to ask yourself, like, is the do I want to get my prestige? Do I want to get my name, my reputation from my soul's values or my ego's values? So your soul's values, I often talk about soul's values and ego values. Your ego values is all about, and this idea of yourself. It's all about your wounded ego. It's all about compensating for something subconsciously, of course. It's all about how other people will finally meet you, right? It's about unconsciously, like, feeling a wound, filling up a gap in your heart. Soul's values are those that are just inherent, the ones that you awaken into when you let go of these distorted ways of thinking that create disharmony within you, that creates this conflict between your soul and your human. Your human and soul, they need to work together for you to create coherence within. It's when your soul and your human are fighting, that's when you're creating this war consciousness within, and you're feeling a lot of dis-ease, right? Because your soul, your human is aligning itself with systems that don't align and feed into your soul's system. And we spoke a lot about this just now in essence mapping, which is the second pillar of the sovereign codex, right? The sovereign codex is how you actually, it teaches you, it shows you how to know, it teaches you how to read systems so that you know which one is for your soul and which one is not for you. Because all of us are plugging into systems. Some of us, most of us are doing it unconsciously, right? And you want to do this, you want to train yourself to do this consciously so that you know quickly, so that you don't waste your time and your energy, who's going where your soul is going, right? Instead of just riding onto a system where they actually have a different agenda that goes against your soul, right? And then you have to you waste a lot of time and energy trying to make up for what you've lost. But when you come back to your center, to your soul, you, even if you've lost so much time and energy, there's always something to be excavated, right? We call the soul gold, and we talk more about it in there. But when you're shifting from ego values to soul values, right? Of course, you're going to lose your stability, because your stability was rooted in this distorted way of thinking. Your reputation is going to go because it was in alignment with your ego values. You're going to lose community because it was in alignment with that. So when you're pivoting, you have to give something to receive what you truly desire, right? And when you come back to your soul values, right? When you come back to the truth of your soul, which is that you're a limitless being, reputation is not lost, it's limitless, right? You want to align your reputation with limitlessness, not limitedness. You want to connect to your community with limitlessness, not with limitedness, right? Because when your community is created from limitedness, you're caging people, you're caging your network, you're caging yourself, because you're like, oh my gosh, you're limited. This can only happen when it's this way. It has to happen, with you. This is where we manipulate people, right? Because we're in lack mindset. Even though you might have $5 million and you're manipulating people to get that 5 million, you're still in lack. You're still in scarcity mindset, because it's the things that you did in order to receive that 5 million. It might be so much, right? But you're not in abundance. You have to go against your soul's values in order to gain that abundance. It's a distorted abundance, right? So it's normal to feel isolated when you're using your inner child's common sense, right? You are differentiating yourself from systems that are creating more disharmony within the collective, that are creating disharmony within yourself. When you align yourself with specific thought forms, with specific way of thinking, right? And when you're around specific environments, you can tell what is not in alignment with your soul. You can tell. Sometimes we often we think ourselves out of it, right? We try to reason our way out of it because it's been so normalized. But that common sense that you've had as a little kid, it's still there, and it's very quiet, right? So even if you're born in a family system or a religion or whatever system you're born into, and your common sense is telling you like, yeah, this is not in alignment, you have to follow it. You have to listen to it, because that's where your integrity is. That's where it lives, right? So even if you grew up being told how to think, how to feel, how to operate in the world, and that small part of you keeps looking at you like, right? You gotta listen, because when you don't listen, that's where you align yourself with death consciousness, war consciousness, right? So it's when you want to create a sovereign life in a world that has created a system in war consciousness, it's all about slowing down. Slowing down. And not making slowing down a problem. And when you slow down, oh my goodness, be ready for all these people who are gonna make you slowing down a problem, right? Because everyone is going super fast. It's like they're mindless. They're disconnected from their soul. So they're in the hive. They're in the wheel. They're just going, right? It's mindless. But when you become an embodied operator of your being, you become more intentional. And intention is what actually, it doesn't scatter your energy, because when you're in the war consciousness system, they need your energy scattered, because you'll be like right? But once you have intention, you're bringing all that energy and charging it through that intention, and that's where you start making more impact. And that's when you start having more clarity, and you start downloading consciousness you never even had access to before, because you're in integrity with your soul. I don't know if any of you know about Atlantis, but when it fell, the universe, Akasha is where all the memories of Earth, all the memories of civilizations of the universe, they're stored in there, right? So it's like almost like when you post something on the internet, right? It's archived and it stays on the internet, right? So it's like that. It's the same thing for our own consciousness. And the universe is so smart, it knows us. It knows the darkness of our humanity. So it was like, okay, these people have to earn this consciousness for us to protect. Not everybody can have access to this information, because we're gonna go lower and lower and lower into even lower density. If you think this is lower, it can go lower, right? If we don't really use this information with respect. So I believe in gatekeeping, right? And this is why I designed the sovereign progression the way I did, because not all information should be available to anybody, because that's when you go and fry your system, and then you start downloading demons into your consciousness, right? So once you align yourself with your soul's values, this is when God starts trusting you with certain information, because you've earned that trust by living your life in a certain way. But it's not that kind of like, oh, if I just do it one time, that's when it happens. No, you gotta keep showing up by slowing down. Because everyone's going, pew! No, you want to slow down. Really slow down and listen to yourself. Like, is this really what I want? No. So you pivoted. So trust that pivot. Trust, don't make the pivot wrong, right? So now when you've pivoted, you want to focus on your emotional architecture, right? Because once you've pivoted, now what you're creating is a counter identity, right? Because everybody else is going that way and you're going the opposite way. So even though the momentum right now in the world is manufactured, is distorted, it's not in alignment with our souls, still most information online that is distorted information, it's going the opposite way and you're going the other way, right? So you created an identity in order to survive that. So we need to deconstruct that identity so that we can reveal who you truly are, right? And we do that in essence mapping, as I was saying, because you need to be in a specific container. There's a system that you need to follow so that you don't go crazy, right? A lot of people just want to jump into this other identity, into this other personality, right? So they can compensate for what they've evolved from, what they have outgrown, because they're still trying to get validation from this world. But if we're being honest, when you're pivoting to your soul values from your ego values, you're not aligning any validation with these people, with these systems anymore. Because your validation is coming from your ancestors. It's coming from within. And that's what we're designing your identity for, your emotional architecture for. Because your emotional architecture is what allows you to feel these emotions and funnel it and express from there and create from that space, from that heart space. Instead of your mind, you're creating from your heart space. And your heart space cares for all humanity. There's no this fractured thing like, oh, us against them, you against me. No. We celebrate differences. As long as internal motivation is rooted in peace and love, right? In wholeness being number one. There's nothing more to do. There's nothing more to be. There's just slowing down and arriving. So if this resonated, you can find more information below, the Sovereign Progression. You can use that to actually scan your nervous system capacity right now. And once you gain the clarity on where you are and where you need to operate from, you are able to sift information faster, right? So you're not just grabbing all this information that's creating psychosis. You actually you're allowing in less information into your system, and that allows room for you to think, to digest, to actually create true abundance that doesn't take you away from your core, but actually helps you to amplify your core, and to create, community reputation and stability based on truth, not on distortion, right? So see you on the other side.
Mhm.